Entitled parent thinks I owe her my seat because she didn't book a ticket for her child. This was a couple years ago, but I can't get it out of my head, so I'd thought I'd share here. Okay, to start with the story. My family lived across the country back then, so I would usually buy a flight to get there. Well, this was during the holidays, so everything was backed up and there were a lot of storms. So when I got to my first layover, my flight was cancelled and they couldn't get in their system to get me a hotel, so I slept on the airport floor that night, clutching all my bags. By the time I got onto the plane, I had spent 24 hours in the airport. Luckily for this flight, I had booked first class. So I get on the plane and get comfy, and I'm just so happy that I'll be home soon after the last couple days I had, when a really nice flight attendant comes over and points at the empty seat next to me and mine, and tells me a mother forgot to book her toddler ticket, and she was wondering if they could take my seat and the empty seat next to me. I said that I'm sorry, but I've had a really long day and I paid extra for this. I would like to stay. The flight attendant was very nice and said no problem, but she let the woman come sit in the empty seat next to me with her toddler on her. She immediately looks at me with a scowl and says, "I can't believe you wouldn't trade your seat for a kid," and simply tell her, "Mom, I paid extra for this seat. You should have booked him a ticket. This isn't my fault." Then she keeps going off saying things under her breath and to her toddler like I can't hear her. And then she tells her kid to make the most noise he can do whatever he wants. And she keeps saying things to me, and I can't believe this entitled woman. I finally lash out and said, "Will you shut the freak up?" I'm not proud of myself for this, but with the last couple days I didn't care anymore. But my common sense came back and I apologized for swearing in front of her kid, even though I heard her call me a bitch and many other words. Again, the woman wouldn't shut up, and finally my savior came, and that really nice flight attendant came over and bent down to the woman's level and said, "Ma'am, you were lucky to be able to switch seats. And all I've heard from you since you switched is you threatening this woman and telling your child to be noisy. This plane hasn't left yet and we have no problem kicking you off this flight, and if you continue to do this while we're in the air, you will be banned." I couldn't help but smile. She finally shut up, and I was so glad that I had downloaded X Life on Netflix so I could finish my steamy show right in front of her. Edit for people asking, I'm assuming the child was under the age of 2, just a big baby. If your child is under 2, you can fly with them on your lap instead of buying them a seat ticket. I'm assuming this is what the woman did and was hoping she'd get an extra seat. I hope that clears some things up. Sorry, Edit 2. For those asking, I'm guessing most people on the plane came from cancelled flights as well. The plane was smaller than the last plane I was originally supposed to go on. I don't know if that was the reason she needed a seat for her kid or not. I don't know why they didn't just switch the grandma to first class, but I guess the flight attendant asked if one of them wanted to switch, and the mom was the one who took the opportunity. Again, I don't know if this was the thought process, but it makes the most sense to me. Entitled Parents Ruin Birthday Party. My 20th birthday party was last week. I have a cake, party, you know, the whole shebang. As I was getting ready to blow out my birthday candles, my aunt, holding my 3-year-old cousin, came up next to me. I asked her if she could back up a little bit because she was right on top of me. We sing happy birthday and everything, and I get ready to blow out my candles. Instead of holding my 3-year-old cousin back, my aunt allowed my cousin to blow across my entire cake, blowing out my candles and spitting all over the cake. I snapped and called her a freaking brat. I asked why they didn't watch her, and their response was that they were holding her. That should have been enough, despite the fact I had already asked them to step back. They said I was too old for a birthday party and apologized but didn't offer to replace the cake or hold another party or anything after they ruined it. Edit some clarifying details since people seem confused. 1. I never said a word to my cousin, just my aunt. 2. I didn't want my cousin there in the first place because last year she tore my entire cake off the table, hence why she was being held this time. 3. None of this would have been a big deal if they had offered to buy me a new one after their toddler spit all over it instead of telling me it was my fault for having a party anyway. 4. I paid for my own cake that my cousin ruined 2 years in a row. Update. So this morning, after staying the night with my best friend, I ran home to grab some clothes. When I got home, my dad was in my face about how disrespectful I was to my aunt and cousin and how I shouldn't have flipped the way I did. I just laughed and asked him if he even gave a crap. I left my own birthday crying. He said no, he didn't even realize because he was too busy trying to comfort my aunt. After that, I just told him that I'm moving out March 1st. I've already found a place. He asked me if I was still going to pay March's rent. I told him no, but that I would be there February 29th to pick up the last of my stuff. He then started freaking out and tried apologizing. I told him it was too late, and the only reason he cares now is because he's going to lose his house because he can't afford it without me paying half of his bills. He said next year he'll make it up to me and make sure my cousin is far enough away from the cake. I told him I'm never having a family party with him, my aunt or my cousin again, and he will be very lucky if I continue to have contact with him after this. He then said he was going to sue me for rent. I told him to go ahead, and I will be suing him for the equity I put in the house, as I've paid for major household repairs such as the roof. I told him to ask my aunt to help with rent, since she was so important to him, and walked out with a bunch of my stuff. We were expecting you to watch our kid. 3-year-old birthday party held recently. Kid-themed venue, but not the kind of place that has staff or set up for kids to be dropped off. Invited many of the kids from our little one's daycare, so it's a first time meeting most of the parents. The following exchange happens and still bewilders me when I think about it. In walks entitled parents EP alongside others arriving. Goes like this. EP, where can we put his bag in case you need anything? Me, confused by the question, feel free to keep it at any table you choose to sit. EP, oh, we're just dropping off our little one. We'll be back to pick him up after the party is done 2 hours. I explain we cannot support watching their child and hosting said party. Nobody can be responsible for doing so. They will need to stay. EP, he is super simple to watch and you won't have a problem at all. Just call us if there is one. Their kid is a 3-year-old as well. Me, that will not be happening. Once again, we are busy hosting and watching our kid. You need to stay with your child. EP, well, I guess he and the gift we brought will not be able to stay because we have shopping to do. Me, thank you for stopping by. They blankly stared at me, shocked. Their threat did not work. Of course, their kid had a tantrum having to leave so fast, so they stayed for the first half of the party. Still walked out with their gift though. Oh darn, one less random Amazon kids toy. Who in their right mind thinks it is okay to drop off a 3-year-old with people they have never met before other than a daycare?